Ever noticed someone who can fix a leaky faucet with a paperclip and some duct tape, but then spends 20 minutes trying to figure out how to share a Wi-Fi password from their phone? Or maybe you've met that person who remembers every single lyric to a song from 1985, but can't recall their Netflix password to save their life. There's a good chance you're looking at a member of the 70s generation. This isn't just about age, it's a whole different psychological blueprint. They're the generation caught between two worlds, the analog past and the digital future. So what really makes them tick? Let's dive into the fascinating psychology of those born in the 1970s. First up, we have the pragmatic survivor. Picture this, a kid in the 70s or 80s whose parents said, "Go outside and play, and be back before the streetlights come on." There were no cell phones, no GPS trackers. You learned to navigate your neighborhood, handle scraped knees on your own, and figure out how to get along with other kids without a parental mediator. This wasn't neglect, it was the norm. Psychologically, this fostered an incredible sense of self-reliance and practical problem-solving. They didn't have Google to ask how to do things. They learned by trying, failing, and trying again. This is why you'll often find them to be fiercely independent. They have a just-get-it-done mentality. When a crisis hits, they're often the calmest people in the room because their childhood was a low-key training ground for dealing with uncertainty. They trust their own judgment because, for a long time, it was all they had. So if you see someone instinctively trying to fix a glitchy router by unplugging it and plugging it back in before even thinking of searching for a solution online, you're likely witnessing the pragmatic survivor in their natural habitat. Then there's the second archetype, the analog bridge. These are the people who straddle two completely different eras. They made mixtapes on cassette players, painstakingly waiting for their favorite song to come on the radio. They also created the first MySpace profiles and learned to code basic HTML to make their page look cool. This dual experience created a unique cognitive flexibility. They can remember a time without the internet, which gives them a different perspective on connection and information. They value face-to-face interaction deeply because it used to be the only option. At the same time, they've adapted to a world of instant messaging and social media. This makes them a bridge between older and younger generations. In a workplace, they can explain to a baby boomer why a social media campaign is important, and then turn around and tell a Gen Z employee why a handwritten thank you note can sometimes be more powerful than an email. This psychological duality can also create a bit of a tension. They appreciate the convenience of technology, but they also feel a nostalgia for the simplicity of the analog world. They are the generation that truly understands what has been gained, but also what has been lost. Next, we encounter the healthy skeptic. Growing up, the 70s generation was bombarded with major societal shifts and a healthy dose of cynicism in pop culture. They saw major institutions fail and witnessed scandals that eroded trust. They were the first generation to be heavily marketed to as children, which made them savvy consumers from a young age. They can smell a sales pitch a mile away. Psychologically, this bred a default attitude of trust, but verify. They don't just blindly accept what they're told, they ask questions. They look for the catch. In the digital age, this skepticism is a superpower. They are less likely to fall for online scams or believe viral misinformation without doing a quick fact check. They've seen it all before, just in a different format. This skepticism isn't about being negative, it's a protective mechanism. It's why they might read dozens of reviews before buying a simple product, or why they prefer a phone call to clarify something instead of relying on a vague text message. They value authenticity above all else, and their inner lie detector is finely tuned from decades of practice. And finally, let's talk about the passionate loyalist. Think about the culture of the 80s and 90s. When this generation came of age, you didn't just like a band, you were a die-hard fan. You had the posters, the t-shirts, the albums. You knew every word, every band member's story. This wasn't just about music. It applied to movie franchises, brands, and friendships. This tendency to go all in created a psychology of deep loyalty. When someone born in the 70s finds something or someone they believe in, they are incredibly dedicated. This is reflected in their relationships and their careers. They often value stability and will stick with a company for years if they feel valued and believe in the mission. Their friendships are often lifelong, forged in the pre-social media era, where connection required more effort. This loyalty is a double-edged sword. Their commitment is powerful, but it can also make them resistant to change. They might stick with an old, inefficient way of doing things simply because it's how we've always done it. They're not being stubborn for the sake of it. Their loyalty to a process or a person is just that strong. Understanding this helps explain why they cherish history and tradition while also, eventually, adapting to the new. So, from the self-reliant survivor to the skeptical yet loyal bridge between worlds, the 70s generation is a unique blend of old-school grit and modern adaptability. They are the last generation to remember life before the internet, and the first to embrace it as adults. Their psychology was forged in a time of massive change, making them resilient, resourceful, and eternally a little bit nostalgic. Do any of these archetypes sound familiar? Maybe it's you, a parent, or a boss. Let me know in the comments which one resonates the most. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this journey into the generational mind, don't forget to subscribe for more insights.